Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Bowling. Thank you all for joining once again. What I want to talk about in this video is something that is not surprising. I know, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that some of you guys have already heard about this. So a group of anti-Israeli protesters decided to storm the White House Saturday. They decided to storm the White House Saturday, chanting all kinds of I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to read you the article, and you know what I'm talking about. But before I even get into it, I just want to do an introduction here, and that introduction is this. This just goes to show you what happens when you have radicalized Marxists, or rather Marxists who infiltrate pre-existing groups and radicalize these groups to do things that are basically insane. If conservatives had done this, it would have been on like Donkey Kong. It would have been a problem. So let's get right into this article because this is absolutely insane. It's just insane. You know, the stuff that's being stirred up here, man, our country is in danger. And if we do not expose this type of stuff, we are going to topple. Okay, big time. The article says a group of anti-Israel protesters who participated in a large demonstration Saturday in Washington, D.C. attempted to storm the White House and chanted slogans such as Allah Akbar. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that right, okay? While calling for the destruction of Israel in favor of a Palestinian state. It's ridiculous. Pro-Palestinian protesters are now climbing up the White House. Now, this is according to the news break here from Roar Solars. It says pro-Palestinian protesters are now climbing up on the White House fence as they throw objects at the Secret Service. Just listen to this. Pro-Palestinian protesters are now climbing up on the White House fence as they throw objects at the Secret Service? Can we say January 6th? I'm wondering if the mainstream media is talking about this. This is insane. Let's go on. Currently, thousands of pro-Palestinian supporters have gathered at the White House after today's large march against the U.S. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And if you go to the description box below and you look at you look up the title for this particular article and read it for yourself, you'll see pictures of these individuals. There are videos of them defacing monuments and all the rest. Pure Marxism, pure communism. But let's go on. As Breitbart News reported, tens of thousands of protesters descended to the nation's capital to demand a ceasefire on the war that Hamas started October 7th when it launched a terror attack on Israel that killed 1,400 people, most of them innocent civilians. Saturday's protesters chanted, quote, "Free Palestine," and, quote, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," end quote, as they called for ceasefire in Gaza and a stop to Israeli aid from the U.S. The protesters then moved down a few blocks where they stood in front of the White House and shouted, quote, "Guilty," while waving signs portraying President Joe Biden as a clown with the words "Genocide Joe" and other signs calling Biden, quote, "a child murderer." Listen to this. If this is accurate, and I'm pretty sure it is, listen to the words of these people. If these people had been pro-Trump, if they'd have been wearing MAGA hats, if they'd have been any form of conservative, what do you think would happen? What do you think really? Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. Anybody with sense cannot deny this reality. We are living in the upside down. But let's go on, because I'm going to give my full-fledged opinion on this afterwards. But both, quote, "Free Palestine" and, quote, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," end quote, imply the destruction of Israel and a genocide of its nearly 10 million Israeli inhabitants as suggested by the Hamas attack. There were reports of protesters desecrating and vandalizing war memorials in the vicinity of the White House as well. And that's true. You'll see that In the article, you'll see them desecrating these pro-Palestinian protesters that defaced and vandalized multiple statues near the White House. Just terrible stuff. Just terrible stuff. These people are have been totally radicalized. The article goes on to say the group that shook the White House fences also recalled the Black Lives Matter riots of May 2020. No kidding. When rioters tried to storm the White House, assaulted journalists. Let me read that again. When rioters tried to storm the White House, assaulted journalists, and threw projectiles at law enforcement officers, injuring dozens of them and forcing the Secret Service to move then President Donald Trump into a secure bunker, for which then candidate Joe Biden mocked. You see the clear bias here? Unbelievable. Unbelievable, man. Yeah, and then the article ends on this. Protesters also yelled obscenities about the president, whom they resent for backing Israel's war efforts against Hamas terrorists. And that's the end of that article right there. Yeah, it's interesting to me. It's so interesting how the radical, because this really is, when you really look at it, is once again is the radical left, the far left, the Marxists, the communists, who are so full of rage and anger and hate because they have been programmed to be so by those who have taught them this worldview, okay, that they are coming against the very people that they supported at the beginning of the campaign. I'm pretty sure all of these pro-Palestinians, whoever they are, because looking at them, I'm beginning to, as I saw pictures of them, I'm beginning to wonder, are they really, Palestinians per se? Because, well, maybe they may be, but I believe they are, I don't want to overstate myself, I believe, but they've been radicalized, because I work with Palestinians. I work with several Palestinians, and these guys are the coolest guys on earth. Coolest guys on earth. They may not have a love for Israel, but they're not the ones already wanting to bomb the White House, beat up. They're not doing any of that nonsense. So that just goes to show you that these so-called Palestinians, these people that call themselves Palestinians, have been radicalized. All Palestinians are not doing this. All Palestinians are not involved in this kind of action. And the reason for that is because they have not been radicalized. The Marxists and the communists have infiltrated their groups and are stirring them up to anger in order to create a revolution. When will people in this country wake up and see what is going on? Now, getting back to this whole bias attitude, conservatives have been saying for the longest that there is a bias in the mainstream news. People will not know that if all they're watching is the mainstream news. Why? Because the mainstream news, according to a report way back in the 1980s, that's just decades ago, stated that over 90%, that's 90% of reporters and journalists are left-leaning. Therefore, when they spin the news of whatever news source they are part of, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, CBS, when they spin the news, they always spin the news in favor of the Democrats or the left, and they suppress or they marginalize anything on the right. Now, somebody may argue, well, so I'm pretty sure conservative news sites do the same too. But how many conservative news sites do you see on the mainstream news? About all that we have on the mainstream news is Fox News, and they themselves are almost like merging over to the left. Let's be realistic. Let's deal with the factual data here. That's facts that I've just quoted to you. So that being the case, they're going to favor, according to this research, they're going to and have, or rather have and are going to and are currently doing, favoring news from the left or situation from the left and making it look good, at the same time marginalizing and demonizing anything from the right. Or they simply don't show anything from the right at all. Okay? They simply don't cover it. This is clearly from the radical left. But I'm pretty sure the mainstream funky dunk bunk media will not cover this the way it should be covered. Because if they covered this the way it should be covered, this would open the eyes of millions of Americans who have been brainwashed by the mainstream media and have that thing stuck in the back of their head and they're still plugged into the matrix. If the mainstream media exposes this radical group for what it is doing and really spins it the way it ought to be spun, that these people are radical, that they're willing to commit acts of violence and are committing acts of violence and defacing property, White House property material, and are doing so, if they actually showed it the way it should be showed, millions of Americans would wake up. The mainstream media is the culprit, the main culprit of spinning these stories the way they are. I am a supporter of people breaking free from the mainstream media. I detest the mainstream media. My stomach hurts when I listen to these reporters, when I listen to these experts and political pundits trying to spin what is obvious right before your eyes. I mean, like literally, literally. Man, I'm trying to be professional about this. This is insane, folks. This is insane, and I wish I had the know-how to literally show you guys the pictures and the videos. I'm going to get there one day. I'm going to get there. So I want you guys to see this, but I can only give it to you from what I read in the article, and you read it in the description box below if you like to, if you want to. But I'm not lying to you. That's what I read from Breitbart News. And I've seen this also somewhere else, and I've seen the pictures yet. This is literally what these people are doing, okay? And it's crazy because, like I said, they're turning on the very person that I'm pretty sure they supported to get Trump out. Turning on him now. Because of his support of Israel. Now, I'm not going to go into any of the details about Biden's support of Israel, and I'm not going to get into all of that. Because I think a lot of this stuff that these people say in politics is just designed to incite people to anger. They never explain anything in detail about what it is, do it and say stuff, because they know there are a lot of people out there that's been radicalized and hateful. So I'm not going to even get it. I already did a video on Hamas, and that is a radical terrorist group, and that what they did, there's no excuse for it. I'm not going to get into this. Well, Israel's doing some things too. Everybody that says about Israel doing some things, they never explain exactly what it is they're doing. What is it that Israel is doing other than, from what I was reading somewhere, that Israel left Gaza in 2005. I think I read the headline somewhere that Israel left Gaza in 2005. So what's the deal here? I'm not going to get into the theology of that. I'm not going to get into it here in this video because I want to get into that. Nobody has ever given any real description of what the Israelis are doing in terms of the Palestinians there, in terms of terrorizing them. So maybe there is, maybe there, I don't know. But no one ever gives any real description of that. It's always these radical terrorist groups, and Hamas is that group. And you got these people here, these radicalized Palestinians here, these pro-Palestinians here that are radicalized. Let me distinguish that. Okay, that are more than likely been infiltrated by Marxists and communists, basically the same thing, who have decided to storm the White House. Okay, same situation. The January 6th situation, right? Only really is almost worse than that. I mean, it's insane. The mainstream media, and ending the video on this, the mainstream media is the major culprit in this. It's how they spin the story. It's how they spin the story. And they repeat it over and 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 over again, to condition the people, to brainwash the people into accepting a particular narrative, even though that narrative is not absolutely true. They are so effective at this. The mainstream media are so effective at spending the radical left as these oppressed people that's crying out. No matter, it doesn't matter if they kill somebody. It doesn't matter. They're just crying out because they're really oppressed. The mainstream media is so effective at doing exactly that. That people will sit up and really honestly believe that these people are justified for defacing private property and for injuring journalists and for injuring secret services. They're perfectly justified in it. That is the epitome of brainwashing, the epitome of mind control. This is not from the right, it's from the left, and it always has been, but the mainstream media will not show you that. To end the video on this, people need to give up the mainstream media, man. Only watch it when necessary. Bottom line, these people are sick and disgusting. That's my word on it. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all and see you again.